Hey y'all, today I'm going to be sharing some more dinner ideas with y'all. I have filmed 5 nights worth of some really delicious recipes I'm excited to share. I know how easy it can be to fall into that what's for dinner rut. We've all been there. But one thing I'm passionate about is searching for new recipes, trying them out, and giving y'all our honest opinion on them. I still try really hard to shop on a budget. It's not always easy, especially these days, but I do hope these videos are still helpful for y'all. Even if this video helps one person, then that makes me extremely happy. But if you are looking for some dinner inspiration, I got you. Keep on watching. First up, I'm going to share this recipe for tortellini pasta salad. This was truly one of the best pasta salads that I have ever had. I'm being so serious. So I just started off by boiling up a package of tortellini. I'm using the tortellini from Costco. It comes in the refrigerated section, but mine was in the freezer because I bought it a while back. So I just follow the cooking directions on the back of the package. I just added like a minute since mine were frozen. But once they were tender, I drained those off and I'm just going to let those cool down in the sink. So meanwhile, to a large mixing bowl, I'm going to make the sauce that's going to coat everything. So that's a half a cup of mayo and a half a cup of Olive Garden Italian dressing. I promise you the combination of the mayo and the Italian dressing is just out of this world good. I did add in about a tablespoon of Parmesan cheese and just a good sprinkle of black pepper. That is it. So very easy. I just mixed that until it was nice and smooth. And then I'm going to add in that cool down tortellini. Over to the side, I did chop up about a cup of cherry tomatoes. I quartered mine and I diced up about half of an English cucumber. If you don't like tomatoes or cucumber, you can leave it out. You can add in whatever veggies that you want to. Make it your own. But I'm just gently folding all of that together and that is it. It's just so simple. I did decide to transfer mine to a separate container that comes with a lid. I just knew this container would fit better in my fridge. But I cooked this earlier in the day and I let that chill in the fridge for several hours before dinner. So for the main course, I'm making some chicken fajita burgers. So I've got a pound of ground chicken here and I'm adding in 1.5 teaspoons of chili powder, a teaspoon of cumin, a teaspoon of oregano, a quarter teaspoon of garlic powder. The recipe did call for some fresh chopped cilantro, but couldn't find that locally, so I just added in some dried cilantro, seasoned it to taste with salt and pepper, and I added in the juice of half of a lime. So now I'm just going in with my hands and getting all of that folded together. So that meat is going to be seasoned all throughout very well. Now this recipe makes enough for 4 servings, which is perfect for us. We are a family of 4. So just keep that in mind. If you are a larger family, you'll definitely want to double it. But I just simply divided that mixture equally into 4 sections and then I'm just going to form it into a hamburger patty. And if you are not familiar with cooking with ground chicken, it is much more delicate than like ground beef. So makes it very, very easy to form hamburger patties very quick. And I just plop those onto a parchment lined cookie sheet. That's just going to make it easier to form these. And the way I've been liking to do like any type of meat, any kind of burgers lately is by just taking my hands and making some large indents in the middle and letting it kind of cup up around the sides. They cook up really good that way. But I am going to be cooking everything in my cast iron skillet. I added down a little bit of olive oil and I added in a sliced up red bell pepper. I'm adding some onion powder, salt, pepper, and a little bit of chili powder to this. Now, if you like actual onions, you can slice one up, cook it with the peppers. I don't cook with onions, so that's why I substituted the onion powder. But I'm going to saute those until they're tender. So while those are cooking down, I'm going to make up a quick guacamole. So I'm just using 1 avocado. This one was absolutely perfect. It was beautiful, nice and bright green. And you know, sometimes when I'm making this, I'll scoop it out with a spoon. Sometimes I'll peel it. I've done this so many times over the years, and most of the time it goes pretty smoothly. But I swear, anytime I hit the record button on my camera, it just seems like everything goes out the window. It's all chaos. So it was peeling off in a million pieces, but it's all good. And as you can see, some of that got left behind on the peeling. I'm just going to take a fork and scoop that out. If you're new here, I do not waste anything, ever. I'm big on that. But anyways, I'm just going to take the back of my fork, smash it all together, I'm going to add in the juice of half of a lime, and I like to go in with a little bit of Laurie's garlic salt, and that is it. I know that's not the traditional way to make guacamole, but that is how we like it and how I pretty much always do it. So by the time I got that done, my peppers were cooked down to my liking, so I'm just going to scoop those out, place those in a bowl, and I can set those to the side. I'm honestly obsessed with sauteed peppers. When I go to like a Mexican restaurant, that is like one of my favorite things to eat. I like it better than the meat or anything. But anyways, I added some more oil to my skillet, olive oil again. And I'm just going to drop in those chicken fajita burgers. And I ended up cooking these about 5 minutes per side. So honestly, this is a very quick meal to make, which I love. The last few minutes before these were done, I did add on a slice of sharp cheddar cheese to each one. The recipe does call for Monterey Jack cheese slices, but I just used what I had on hand. But that right there, that's a beautiful sight. I'm going to start building the burgers. So I did add these to a buttered and toasted bun. I added a good amount of the peppers. I was honestly the only one that wanted the peppers. My family didn't really want them. But I did do some of that guacamole on the top bun. Love how colorful that is. I, of course, paired it with a big scoop of that tortellini pasta salad. I know that this may not necessarily make sense as a side dish to go along with the burgers, but that's what I love about home cooking. You can literally do whatever you want. Doesn't have to make sense to anybody. But honestly, just using that tortellini over regular pasta really exceeded my expectations. We loved it. And the chicken fajita burgers came out so good. They were so flavorful and just really fun, something different. Next up, I'm going to be making some honey lemon pepper chicken wings. So you need about 2 pounds of chicken wings. I got these at Costco earlier in the year. They've been in my deep freezer and I've been curious about how we like them. And I can say that I love the size of them. They're not too big, they're not too small, and we love the quality of them. So definitely will repurchase when I run out. So I got all of those dried off really good. I threw them in a large mixing bowl and I'm adding in 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. The recipe called for potato starch. I've never had that, but it did say you could substitute, so that's what I did. I did a tablespoon of baking powder, a teaspoon each of onion and garlic powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of paprika, and some sea salt. So now I'm just going in and getting all of that tossed together, making sure it's all well coated. I'm using a glove just because I had some fake nails on. I didn't want all of that all up underneath my nail. So now I'm going to get a parchment lined cookie sheet and I'm going to give it a few spritz of olive oil, and then I'm just going to start laying out all of those coated chicken wings. I'm also going to take some more of that olive oil spray and just spritz it onto each chicken wing, and that's going to go in a 425-degree oven for about 40 minutes. Halfway through that cooking time, I did come in and get all of those flipped on over. I gave them another spritz of the olive oil. I was having a little bit of a time with that bottle for whatever reason, but back in the oven those go. And in that last 20 minutes of cook time, I'm going to air fry some French fries. I have been really wanting to try the new Kinder's ones. There's a couple of different flavors, but this is the one I wanted to try first. So those are going in the air fryer. And now I'm going to make the wing sauce. So to a small saucepan, I'm going to do a 1/2 cup of honey. I'm going to take this lemon and I'm going to add all of the zest. I do make sure to wash and dry the lemon before I do that. And then I'm also going to add in the juice of that whole lemon. That first half gave me a little bit of trouble. I should have chopped off that little pointy part because it was making it difficult to get the juice out. But after I get all of that lemon juice in there, I am going to add in a big spoonful of minced garlic. I'm just using the stuff from the jar. I'm also going to do a tablespoon of butter, a teaspoon of black pepper, and just some sea salt. And I'm going to put this on my stove on about a medium heat. Going to get it all mixed together good. And once it starts bubbling, I'm going to let it simmer for about 5 minutes, I'd say. So here is those chicken wings once they are fully done. I did make sure to check them with a food thermometer just to make sure they were done. I added those to a bowl and I'm going to pour all of that sauce that I just made over them. I was a little worried at first that the sauce was way too runny, but it worked out beautifully in the end. So to another mixing bowl, I'm going to add in all of those crispy fries, and the bag comes with this little packet of liquid gold. That is what really caught my attention, and you're just going to toss the fries in that, and you would think that that's going to make it like soggy. It doesn't. These fries are honestly so good. Probably the best frozen fries that I have ever bought. Delicious. But you don't get much in a bag. Like, you get half the amount that you would with any other like frozen fry, and they're a little pricey. So for us, I would have to buy 2 bags, and it's just not very budget friendly. So I wish they would fix that. I did make some homemade ranch to pair with the wings and the fries. We like to dip our fries in that sometimes. But as for the wings, they came out really good. The sauce was amazing. I have never had a sauce like that with wings before. And now it's going to be like a go-to. It paired so good with the chicken wings. My only 2 complaints was the wings didn't get that crispy, which really isn't a deal breaker for me. And I don't really know how to explain this, but they were kind of like too powdery. I think it was too much cornstarch. On this night, we're going to try out this recipe for taco meatloaf. So I've got 2 pounds of ground beef, and in this little Ziploc bag, I've got about a half a bag of some Fritos corn chips, and I'm just taking a rolling pin, getting that crushed up. I actually use like the off-brand Save-A-Lot brand of the Fritos, throwing that in there with the meat. I'm also cracking in 2 large eggs. You're going to need a half a cup of salsa inside of the meatloaf. I'm using the Mateos, but obviously use whatever salsa you want to. You'll need a packet of taco seasoning, and I'm also going to add in some garlic powder, salt, and black pepper. So at this point, I'm going to go in and start getting all of this mixed together. When it was about halfway mixed, I am going to go in with a cup of some shredded cheese. This was a Colby Jack blend of cheese, I'm pretty sure, but any cheese would be good with this. But I'm just going to finish mixing that up, and then I'm just going to transfer that to my greased meatloaf pan. This one is a Rachel Ray meatloaf pan. My husband got that for me from Amazon a couple years ago, and I absolutely love it. It's got holes in the bottom, so all that grease drains out, and it just doesn't make you have a greasy meatloaf. I just cannot brag on it enough. But you're going to need a cup of salsa to go over the top. So I did use the rest of my hot, and then I opened up a jar of the mild salsa just to have enough. But with the back of my spoon, I'm getting that spread out. That's going to go in the oven at 350 degrees for 40 minutes. Then I pulled it out, and I topped it with some more of that Colby Jack shredded cheese. And it's going to go back in the oven anywhere from 10 to 15 more minutes at 350. I did 15 minutes. So while that's in the oven, I'm going to make the side to go with it. I'm going to do some seasoned rice. I wasn't really feeling Mexican rice, so I just wanted to, try out something different. So in my pan, I melted down a tablespoon of butter. I added a cup of some long grain rice. I did wash it first. I sauteed that with the butter for just a little bit before adding in some onion powder and minced garlic. I'm also going to be adding in a can of beef broth, which is 2 cups, or you can do chicken broth. Either or is fine. It does call for 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. I was out, but I always have some packets. I have a whole container dedicated to leftover restaurant packets, and they are the handiest thing ever. I could never throw those out. I also added in a few dashes of Worcestershire sauce, and I did a good amount of some dried parsley. So I let that come up to a boil. I added a lid, turned that heat down to a simmer, and I'm going to let that cook for 20 minutes. So here is that meatloaf. Once it's fully cooked through, I'm going to let that sit in the pan for about 10 minutes before slicing it, just letting it rest. So once the 20 minutes was up on that rice, I turned off the heat and I left it alone for about 5 minutes. Then I came in with a tablespoon of butter, fluffed it up, and that was it. So here's my plate. I also made some smoked jalapeno poppers the day before, and I just reheated those up in the air fryer. So good. I will link a video on how I did those in my description box. The meatloaf came out so juicy and flavorful. We really loved it. So good. Super kid friendly. And that rice was good. I did expect a little bit more, but I would definitely make it again. Up next, I'm going to be making a crockpot pork chop and gravy dish. So you're going to need a can of cream of mushroom. I'm using this one with roasted garlic. I already had that one in the pantry, and it's just extra good in my opinion. It also calls for a can of cream of chicken soup. I like the one with herbs when I can get it. When that goes on sale, I plan on stocking up. But yeah, both of those go into a mixing bowl along with a packet of brown gravy. recipe. Since I buy the big container, that is 3 tablespoons of the mix, and I'm just going to stir that together until it is nice and smooth. Now, every recipe that I saw called for water to thin this out, but over my years of experience with crock pots and cooking meat, the juice from the meat is going to, create a natural broth. It will thin it out. But here is the pork chops that I'm using. I got 5 of these thick bone-in pork chops for $10. That was the best deal that I was able to find the day that I went to Kroger. Now, you definitely don't have to use bone-in. I actually did not intend on getting bone-in. I wanted some boneless, thick-cut pork chops, but they just didn't have any, so this is what I went with, and no regrets. It was delicious, and plus, what they always say, if you use bone-in meat, you're going to get extra flavor. Completely agree with that. But here, I'm just taking some onion powder and I'm seasoning both sides of that meat. I made sure to get every single one of them. And this recipe, I talked about this in my recent grocery haul. I have been craving just like a cozy, comforting crock pot meal, and this hit the spot. This recipe was phenomenal, and it just gave me like fall vibes, which just makes me so happy. But yeah, I am taking all of that gravy mixture and just spreading that over the top. I'm going to add my lid and I'm going to cook it on low for about 6 hours is what I did. So here is what it looks like when it is done. Your house is going to smell so good. I know it's not the prettiest dish ever, but that meat is going to be so tender and the gravy is so flavorful. There's plenty of it to serve over potatoes or rice or pasta, whatever you choose to do with it. And, the fat's going to kind of float to the top. I just stir it in, but you can skim it off the top if you want to. But I did serve mine alongside some homemade mashed potatoes. I poured plenty of that crock pot gravy over it. One of my, current favorite foods is mashed potatoes and gravy. I cannot get enough of it. I served it with a side of peas, and then, of course, I had that pork chop. It honestly turned out perfect. I was so pleased. I just wish I made some homemade roast to go with it. Lastly, I'm going to be making some manicotti. It's been a while since I made it, and I'm trying out a little bit of a different recipe. So to my mixing bowl, I'm adding in a container of ricotta cheese, 15 ounces, 2 eggs, and 3/4 of a cup of shredded Parmesan cheese. That specific one is my go-to. Love it so much. I also added in about 2 cups of some shredded mozzarella cheese, a spoonful of minced garlic, and about 5 ounces of room temperature cream cheese. I don't believe I've ever used cream cheese in a manicotti recipe, and it really made it so much better. I did some parsley, basil, oregano, salt, and pepper. I will link the recipe in my description box so you can get those exact measurements, and I'm just gonna mix that together really good. Then I'm gonna grab a 9x13 casserole dish and a jar of pasta sauce. So this carbone one I have been saving in my pantry. It's a little bit pricier than what I'm used to, but I had a really good coupon, so I've just been saving it for a good occasion. But it tastes like a really nice Italian restaurant. It's so good. I added a little bit to the bottom of my dish, and this is the manicotti noodles that I'm going to be using. I also transferred all of that cheese mixture to a gallon-sized Ziploc bag, and I'm just going to snip off the end and treat it like a piping bag. I'm just going to add a little bit of that into each end. That's how I always fill my manicotti shells. This one was a little bit thinner than what I'm used to, so a few of them, it kind of did pour out a little bit, but truly not a big deal, and no one but me is going to know. Other than y'all, my family would never know. This specific recipe did say to actually boil the pasta first, but again, I've never done that with a manicotti recipe, so I just kind of follow the instructions on the ones that I've made in the past and have had good luck with, and it all worked out great. So the recipe also said that this would make about 10 of the shells, but I was able to fill that whole box of pasta with that mix, and I actually had a little bit left over, so I just kind of poured it over the top. I sure wasn't going to waste it. And then I'm just going to add the rest of that jar over top of the shells. I like to add a little bit of water to the jar always, just to get every little bit of that sauce out. And with the back of my spoon, I'm just going to spread that out evenly. You definitely want to make sure that the pasta is fully covered, or else it won't cook properly. So that's very important. But lastly, I'm just going to take a few handfuls of shredded mozzarella and just Sprinkle that all over the top. You can use as little or as much as you want to. Then I'm going to grab a large piece of tinfoil and tightly wrap up that casserole dish. And I baked mine at 350 for an hour with the foil on. Then I took that foil off and I let it bake uncovered for about 20 minutes. So by that point, your pasta should be cooked perfectly. That right there is picture perfect. I'm also going to toss together this salad. This is a jalapeno popper chopped salad. This was my first time buying it, and it was pretty good. It really wasn't nothing too special in my eyes, but, we're really used to like a house salad, like kind of like a Texas Roadhouse style house salad, and it's hard to get anything to compare to that, if you know what I mean. But yeah, so here's a closer up look of the manicotti once it is done. It is cool just for a little bit, holds together very well. I've got 2 of those on my plate. A big scoop of that salad, and I served it up with some garlic bread. Turned out absolutely amazing. We love this meal. That's going to wrap up the video. I did want to say that I know my videos have been here and there lately, but we've just really been soaking up the kids' summer break. We've had a longer summer break than normal, but they'll be going back the first week of September, and then I can get on a better schedule. But I just want to say thank y'all so much for being patient with me, and I really hope y'all enjoy this video.